Thanks for joining us this week on Email Geeks at Home Drinking Coffee. Join your hosts Chris Marriott and Paul Schreiner each week as they talk email marketing, life, purpose, faith, but mainly email marketing. If you're looking for some normalcy in these crazy times, you've come to the right place.
Welcome back to Email Geeks at Home Drinking Coffee. And in this case, neither Chris nor I is at home drinking coffee. I'm live on the scene from Eagle Island State Park in Boise, Idaho, where we're visiting family, reconnecting, where we haven't really seen these folks for 2 years, as we took a year off from COVID. And so with me, as always, is my friend, my colleague, my fellow journeyman in this life,
Chris Marriott.
Chris Marriott. I always love the awkward pause too.
And I can show, and I'm down back in, I'm back in Alabama. We know this program. Those of you who follow our program closely know that I've been back and forth during the pandemic, and nothing like that Alabama heat in July.
Yeah.
Well, except that it's hotter in Boise today, probably.
Oh, I know it really is. It's 112 degrees today, so we were like, let's go to the lake. But here we are. We're
back with episode 2.
Yep, episode 2. We have I think a fantastic guest. Super excited about having him. A friend of mine from the past, Cory Michaelis, a stand-up comedian, talking about what's it going to be like from a stand-up comedy. Like, honestly, I think comedians can sometimes talk about things the rest of us can't. And again, I'm super excited about having him on the show, getting to share. I would be remiss to get too deep into that without saying thank you to our sponsors, Audience Point, who has graciously afforded the time for both myself and producer David Inman to participate in this. And so grateful for them, grateful for the products that we're doing, the employees we get to work with. It's really become a really neat family almost over the last year of sort of working together as closely as they have. So grateful to them. Thank you for the sponsorship that you guys do. Who else do we have sponsoring us today, Chris?
And our junior sponsor is Email Connect. And you know what? This week, rather than do a spiel for you, Email Connect, I want to say thank you to my customers and my clients.
For sure.
You got me, and you know who you are. You got me through 2020.
Yep.
With my doors still open and business is getting much better this year. So heartfelt thanks to all of my customers and clients. And so I dedicate my portion of today's episode to my customers and clients. Paul, here's your opportunity to do the same.
I will do the same, Chris. Absolutely. It really has been a rough year in 2020, and grateful that we are sort of starting to crest that down on the other side. And, these are the people that stuck with us. They are the people that stuck with us. And how do we build that lifetime relationship where we stick with them as well? So grateful for where we are. So grateful where we're going, honestly.
And this is a great episode. You're going to love it. I loved it.
Yeah.
Paul loved it. So we'll see you on the other side with producer David Inman.
Absolutely. Welcome back to Email Geeks at Home Drinking Coffee. We've got with us today, I think it's fair to say, my longtime friend. He might not say that, and that's okay. But a friend of mine, stand-up comedian, funny guy, hosts his own podcast, is all over the everythings. I've known Cory since he was like a senior in high school, I think.
I'd say younger.
Was it younger? Okay, anyway, he was at Cascade High School in Everett, Washington. After that, he became a young life leader when I was a young life leader at Kamiak High School. And so all the people who are like, yay, @ Kamiak, I'm sure that's going to happen. But then he went on to, went to the same university I went to, Seattle Pacific, and then went on to teach Cascade, and have since maybe left the full-time profession of teaching and moved over to specifically maybe your primary life is stand-up comedy, with your backup being substitute teaching, which provides, it seems, a lot of fantastic material for you.
That's true, and allows me to afford food. So
hey, that helps.
Minor details.
Right. Well, anyway, great to have you, Cory. It's been too long. Fantastic to reconnect.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear from you. I was so glad to hear from you on Twitter, and this is really fun to see you. And I mean, it's been so long for like all those folks from that life
Oh
when
yeah,
I was involved in Young Life. I just haven't, stayed super connected with them.
right.
So, and then life changes and all that jazz. So, but here we
All the
are.
things. Yeah, here we are. Here we are connecting via Zoom.
Here we are
Because
on
you're
one
in
of
the Northwest still.
on one of
Yeah.
America's most popular podcasts. Who would have
Right,
thought?
right,
That's where we
right.
end up, with a bullet, moving up towards number, I don't know, 3021.
Is
But
Joe Rogan joining us?
Yeah.
All right.
We hate that
Okay.
guy.
Yeah,
You know,
just
he's looking
keeping
over
you out of the
shoulder.
top spot, huh?
he's looking over his shoulder at us, Corey. I think he knows we're coming for him. So,
Got it. Good.
but before we get started into Paul's insightful questions and witty banter, we go through a round of what everybody's drinking. And while Steven eats at home drinking coffee, we're recording this. Should I not say recording? We're live.
No,
We're
no.
live. This.
We're not
We're
fooling anyone,
streaming
Chris.
this in the afternoon, so it may not be coffee today. So Corey, we'll start with you. What are you drinking?
Well, just I guess I just poured myself a shot. I gotta,
Oh,
mean,
nice.
No. That's how I wake up every morning now. It's just off the. No, this Trader Joe's vodka ain't bad. It's a little Texas Trader Joe's vodka, and I think they're trying to copy the Tito's because Tito's is in Austin, I think. So I just put it in a little bit of a key lime LaCroix, and it's my favorite LaCroix.
I'll tell you, you millennials and your LaCroix.
And that's I'm right on the edge. I'm barely not a millennial, but I would be happy. I'd happily be a millennial. That's fine with me. I've never had a cup of coffee actually my entire life.
Is that right?
Yeah. People are shocked. They're like, "How do you wake up in the morning?" Well, mostly sad and erect, but also not in the morning. I don't do that anymore. I've given
I would
up,
imagine you get up
so.
around 2:00 when the sun is warm, or
Right.
So
What about you,
cheers to
Mary?
that.
I'm drinking the cool version of lime LaCroix. I'm drinking lemon lime ugly sparkling water, which we had our friend the CEO Hugh Thomas on here. I don't know, season 2, and we're still enjoying his beverage here at the Marriott House.
Well, in honor of Corey not being a millennial, I went with Bud Light Seltzer today because I know how the millennials like that hard seltzer. So
that's more millennial. Yeah, well, they do, and every company is making it. I think Rainier just released one.
Fantastic!
Rainier has a
brewing company seltzer.
Yeah, and they have a gin too, I think, but gin's a little.
I do like the gin.
I love the fact that millennials think they invented that type of beverage, and they forget that actually we've been here before with beverages like Zima and
Sure.
You kids, get off my lawn!
Yeah, you kids, you didn't invent anything. It's just the beer companies getting in the game this time.
Yeah, you get people that aren't millennials can't decide whether they're angry at all the things millennials are doing or just jealous of not getting credit because we did it before. You're like, which one is it? What do you not?
Yeah.
Toast. I will give full credit. I mean, I know people have been putting avocados on toast, but honestly, I'll give full credit to the millennials and thank you. I appreciate it. I think it's delicious.
It's amazing in the morning or it's my friend has who is the friend? I'm going to quote a friend's joke and not remember.
It's going to be so good too.
I think it's Monica Nevi.
Put it in air quotes.
Even if it's not, she's great, but she has a joke where she goes, we didn't give ourselves those participation trophies, right? It wasn't our idea. It was your idea to do it. We didn't get together as a group of kids and be like, hey, I think we should get trophies. It's like you guys that did it. Also, I got trophies. I got trophies when I was a kid. I dare you to go to a pizza party of an 8-year-old T-ball team and not give them trophies. Good luck.
You know how good it feels to watch them happy? I mean, I agree. It wasn't our idea, but when you watch them bounce, I got a trophy. Seventh place. How many teams were there? 8. There were 8 teams.
Anyway, so yeah, but yes, millennials, they get a But now it's Gen Z is getting the rap. That's what
Yeah.
everybody's making fun of them for because they like to part their hair in the middle and stuff. I don't know. I can't pay it. I can't keep up.
It's a lot. It's a lot to keep track of.
And I don't have hair, so.
Well, I mean, there is that.
So all
One
parts,
other thing. What's that, Marriott?
all parts are offensive then to Cory.
Yeah.
Right,
Anything,
right.
anything
Left,
hair.
right, center.
We
That's
call
a
them the
fun game.
hairers. Okay, so we one of the reasons I wanted to sort of talk to you, Cory, is a couple fold, and part of it is, I mean, I don't want to say we're through a pandemic because, I mean, we're still sitting here inside the pandemic going, yeah, it's still a thing. Hey, everyone, don't stop just because you've been vaccinated. But I feel like we're starting to sort of ease out of it a little bit, starting to feel a little bit more normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to talk to you about your take. I don't know why Chris just left. I don't know why he just left.
He went to get his mask.
Right, that's probably right. So no, we're kind of easing out of it, and I
Right.
want to hear your take on what role does comedy, does laughter, does humor have to do with us just kind of recovering from this really crappy, well, almost year and a half, right?
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. So I'll just kind of rewind just a tiny bit and say like, comedy rooms, the best comedy rooms, low ceiling, packed,
Yep.
everybody laughing, everybody eating, everybody drinking, an individual on stage speaking out at them, sometimes yelling, are like the worst possible place for a airborne virus,
Right.
So for over
Put
a
up a
year,
sign
as
that
much
says "Welcome, virus."
exactly, and so for over a year, as much as we've wanted to be on stage performing, we've for the most part recognized it's not super safe. Now, there's a lot of like super rich comedians who have been kind of like, how dare you perform? And it's like, well, you're rich, like you don't have to perform.
Right.
Like I have to do comedy because as it turns out, my other job, which was substitute teaching, also essentially didn't exist this last
Right.
year because schools were virtual and teachers just didn't take days off. And I mean, I don't think people realize, but most of the days teachers take off aren't sick. It's going to a well, yeah, they pretend to, but I mean, I didn't mean that, but that's funny too. But I mean, it's going to a conference, or it's coaching a sport, or it's all these things that aren't happening right now either. And if they are sick, I think it's much more of a hassle to try and set up somebody to substitute teach virtually right now. So they just do it. And
here's my Zoom credentials. We're good, right?
Yeah. So I didn't do. I did zero. Yeah, mic drop, like your literal mic. So I didn't do any of that. Okay, so that's sort of the framework of like we had to pivot, right? And if it was your full-time gig, and that was that's the other thing. So people who weren't, so all these people who are rich or like, why are you performing? And then there was all these like lower level comedians who also, if you're in a liberal city especially, were pretty judgmental, and rightfully so for a lot of situations of people performing, but they didn't have to. They have day jobs. It wasn't a full time gig. So, so there's all this. Who it hit was just like everything. The middle class of comedians was who got hit. The people who were on the road, making their money doing comedy, and now we're kind of screwed. And so pivoting. But see, I'm not like I don't know. I don't know that it's the Young Life stuff per se, but it started there, and then it was like reading Malcolm Gladwell, and then it was like reading, Power of Positive Thinking, Wayne Dyer stuff, and it's just like, look, I'm just gonna make the best of what I can. And so some people, I'm not doing any virtual shows. Nah, man, I'm doing virtual shows. I'm gonna keep trying to write. I'm gonna keep trying to perform. And as it turned out, companies went virtual with their corporate gigs. And corporate gigs pay really, really well. And as a corporation, you can imagine, my employees have been sitting here.
Yeah.
every day on Zoom at their house, their kid yelling in the background. They could use some yuck 'em
Something.
ups, you know? And we don't have to pay the comedian to travel and put them
Yep.
up in a hotel. Now we can, we can either put some of that money into what we just pay them, or we can save a little. And so, man, I hope those continue. I hope corporations just keep going.
Yep.
Look, we'll just do our comedy virtual, do our Christmas party virtually, or Hanukkah. I'll pour anything,
Yeah,
any
right. I'm
holiday.
here,
I
man.
don't care. Praise Allah. I don't care. Whatever. So that's a Mark Norman line. I shouldn't steal that. Anyway, he always says praise Allah. But so that's sort of the backdrop. And now as it's sort of and throughout the year I went to places where the rules weren't as stringent.
Right.
And I picked and chose my spots. And sometimes the rules weren't as stringent because they weren't. It was places that just didn't take it as seriously, and that wasn't super exciting
we've
to
lived
me.
in those places, Corey. We know
Yeah.
the ones you're talking about, and
Well,
that's okay. I mean,
yeah.
the goal is not to cast judgment, right?
No.
The reality is, here we are, right? What you're describing is probably pretty universal for that middle class comic across America, but also
Exactly.
middle class America, honestly, right? Like, holy
Right.
shit, what do we do?
Right. And so, yeah, as much as unemployment was actually not so bad, and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, now it's like, all right, so now there are significant like places can have comedy,
Mhm.
and even even Seattle. I mean, I'm near Seattle. I'm in Snohomish, King County area,
Yep.
and we were about to roll back to 25% capacity, and Inslee kind of
What?
stepped in and said, "Hey, let's pump the brakes for 2 weeks." And you know, I mean, as much as people complain about him, he keeps going like, actually, let's ignore the rules for a second because let's let places stay open. So anyway, so we're still at 50 in the
Okay.
clubs locally,
Okay.
and that's not terrible if it's a good club. And
Yeah.
so anyhow, so that's the backdrop. And then around the country there's places that I think are 100%, and I'm going to Chicago tomorrow. I'm having a real heck of a time selling tickets to a really small venue that I rented out, and I'm like, shoot, I don't know if that's there's so many options in Chicago for it's a big city,
Yep.
and there's a million options, and there's a million options for comedy, or if it's nobody knows me there, or if it's people aren't going out. I don't know. I'll find out a
Right.
little bit more
Or
tomorrow.
probably all of the above. Well, and so
Probably.
here's one thing we can do, and by the time this launches, your show will be long past. Um,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? But what we can do
Right.
is we can promote it through our own channels now, and
Right.
hopefully drive some people your way. Because again, this is kind of what we're talking about. How do we recover from this place? And
Right.
you're saying like, look, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to step out. I'm going to rent a venue out in a city I've never been to. Right. And
Right. Well,
you know,
not
I've
yet.
never
I've
had
never done it.
coffee.
Yeah, I've never done this there before. So what my buddy, he would call it because we were doing this before everything shut down. Me and my buddy Andrew Rivers, who's great. We were either together or separately renting out. We got to the point where we were renting out some pretty big spaces, 100 to 250 seats,
Yep.
and selling a good amount of tickets and making some dough on weekends where we didn't have a club
Right.
date, or we didn't have a whatever date. And I was just like, we went to Hawaii and we sold 150 tickets, and we got to have a trip to Hawaii, and it was
Yeah.
great. And because we had kind of learned how to do it, he kept calling it the Eagles cover band tour, because it was like, for him, it was like going to the cities that can't afford the Eagles,
Right.
but those are the cities or the towns where you can really
Right.
sell some tickets, because it's the only game in town as far as comedy is concerned. Chicago, it's got 4 clubs
Right.
open, and they're all great, and they're historic, Laugh Factory, Zanies. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's heard of these clubs.
Second City.
Second City's there. I don't know if they're open anyway, but yeah, you got it. And so but now we're back, and people are chomping. The audiences are awesome. They're so great.
Okay.
They are laughing hard. They are just so excited just to be out doing anything. So and I know this isn't necessarily the angle we're going, but I do want to say my perspective is anything we can do as comedians, as comedy club owners, as people in this industry to continue to allow things to open fucking do it.
Yeah.
Please do it. Do it. Everybody do it. Because it's
Right.
so great to be able to not, to be able, and then the talk of, moving back in
Yeah.
certain counties and cities in America. I'm going, just no, do everything. Please do everything. Please do everything.
Right, because
I don't even know if the mask works that well because I've read a couple articles recently that whatever, but wear the damn thing and wear it in and stand far, whatever you need to do.
right,
Get the goddamn vaccine. Yeah, I mean, some people
right.
maybe don't want to do it or whatever.
I want all the
Just
vaccines.
get it, just go, and we can. And I haven't seen polio in a long, long time, so I think they kind of work. I don't know, I might be crazy, but get it so we can all go
Right.
back to 100% capacity. Comedy shows would be so amazing. And in that, and then when we go to the comedy elephant in the room, right, we talk about it a little bit. My buddy has kind of written a whole new act that the same guy, Andrew Rivers, that like talks about it a lot, and he's found that like he had to pull back a little because it was just like
It was
too much.
too much.
People are like out and about and they're trying to forget about all that and shed it. And but it's also elephant in the room,
Yeah.
and it's what's been going on. So,
Well, is
yeah.
that always
Anyway,
what comedians? I mean, that's kind of what comedians and honestly entertainers as a whole do, right? You're allowed to say things that no one else can say. You observe things that other people don't observe, and you're able to give it voice. Where if I were to say it or Chris were to say it, people would be like, "Yeah, you're just not funny." I mean, leave it to people like Cory to say that.
yeah, and that's where issues come up with like Twitter, because people who everybody's trying to be funny right now, and for comedy, there's that's actually good for comedy in
Right.
that means stand-ups need to be even more original, more unique, saying things that other people aren't saying, angles that people haven't
Yep.
come up with, not being hack, as we call it. So hack is just unoriginal or having tricks that get people to laugh. So it's good for comedy. It makes it harder
Right.
because you're like, everybody already had that idea. I mean, Bill and
Right.
Melinda
Right.
Gates, announced their divorce, and within 4 hours, there's
Right. It's done.
hilarious jokes on Twitter, and it's over. And if you went to a stand-up show in 3 weeks and someone said, I guess Melinda was fed up with PC culture, which is a good tweet from somebody. Dang it, who was that? I keep referencing
Yeah.
people. It's a great tweet, but that's not gonna last.
No, it
And
won't.
in the 1980s and 90s and 70s, probably you could do a joke like that in your stand-up act, probably for several months, maybe a
Yeah.
year after a thing
Yeah.
happened. Not anymore. It's
Right.
already been done by all the late night hosts or some version of it. It's been done by SNL, and people trash SNL, even though that's a really hard
Right.
show to produce.
Right.
They're 10th in line to make the joke every week, because everybody, anyway. So
Right. Because the with technology, everything has shortened. Right.
Yeah.
Everything has gotten shorter. And Chris, I realize I'm hijacking everything, but I have one follow-up question here because I think it really is you brought up stealing jokes a couple of times now, right? And I think that's really interesting. Like I even wrote it down. Like I want to know more. There is a pressure on you to be original, right? To not just be original, but dynamic and the funniest thing anyone has ever seen. Talk about that.
So the number one thing that's the worst thing you can do as a stand-up is to, flat out steal a joke, right? That's just completely, you will be a pariah as soon as that you start doing that or get noticed, you do that or whatever. Next level down is like, doing something that other people have done, but you're not stealing it. It's just like so common
Yeah,
that
it's
we're
the
all
public
kind of doing
domain.
it. Right. And so that's sort of the next level down. Is you got to be super aware of that and decide, where does this joke belong? Does this joke belong in my Twitter feed? Does this joke belong on my podcast? Me and Andrew do a podcast called Homeschool, where we do 10 minutes of monologue style jokes at the beginning. We're not as, we're writing those throughout the week at a Google Doc, and we're not like going to be going on Twitter and searching to see like, has someone said this already? And it's like,
yeah.
because it's our podcast, and people, I hope people understand, like, some of that's going to make it in the act, some of it won't. But with the act, we're very, we'll call a friend, we'll text. Did you do it? Do you have a thing like this? Have you heard anybody say something like this?
Okay.
I mean, Jerry Seinfeld's new book is called "Is This Anything?" Right? And that's what we say. We call each other and we go,
Right.
Is this something? Is this
Is
anything?
this a thing? Does this
Is this
exist?
anything? Is this good? And then the follow-up question is like, have you heard anybody do anything like that? Like, what do you know?
Right.
And so, you want it to be material that is, I mean, I don't want to overstate talking about our penises, because that's a lot of what we do. But I mean, it's in terms of the art form of it, we do want to be saying something that is a unique angle. It doesn't have to be like socially important necessarily. A lot of comedians nowadays really think that's important, to be socially or politically valuable or important, or saying something that matters. And a lot of comedians are just like, I was trying to be funny and take an angle on something that's interesting.
Right.
And I may not even agree with the angle. I might undercut the angle.
Right.
I might, and so my rule of thumb sort of there is that I want to believe the things I say, so that after the show, if someone said something, I could go, instead of going, it's just a joke, settle down, jeez, I can instead go, well, no, I actually believe that. And that angle I took, the premise that I came up with and the angle I took on that premise is something I actually buy into, and I'm happy to talk to you about it, and maybe I'll change the joke if you convince me otherwise. And I mean, I have a joke that's dark, where I'd say I don't like the people of Edmonton. All they have is a mall, and it's like that's all they talk about nonstop. Biggest mall in North America. I don't care.
Right.
And they were trying to convince me, so they're like, we have a gun range in our mall. Can you shoot
Wow.
And they do, and they're like, can you shoot guns in American malls? And I was like, well, not legally, but it's very popular. And so people will laugh and groan at that joke, and I go, so I wrote it what we call like a saver line, or a line, and I just go, hey, prove me wrong, I'll stop doing the joke. And then people kind of go, well, yeah, he's got her. I mean, it's the thing. It is, whatever. So that's probably the darkest thing I'm currently saying. And then in light of the last probably month and a half, I had to take a couple weeks off the joke, because there was a couple shootings, and I was like, I just need to kind of pump the brakes on that joke for a few weeks. And then but that's the other thing is, I mean, in America, I mean, how long do you have to wait for there to be another, unfortunately. And so which is, so to me, as silly as the joke is, I'm just being like, it's also, kind of poignant, and it's also like, hey, if you don't, if that's the thing that bothers you or upsets you, which it doesn't really, for the most part, audiences are groaning out. They're groaning out of like, it's, oh man,
that happens. Yeah.
Out of agreement. Nobody has come up to me and been like, hey, that I can't believe you. And I'm like, well, I don't. But again, I get away. I smile through it, and then I kind of save it by saying, "Prove me wrong," and all, and then that makes the audience go, "Well, I can't really." So, all right, next joke. But anyway, I'm, we're just trying to have original angles and takes on things, but also not be like too self-important, like.
Right.
Comedians are the last bastion of free speech. And all right, geez, just write a joke.
Right.
So anyway, I don't know. That really addresses, but.
Did it ever cross your mind? Another comedian I know who, was New York as New York could be. Never thought, lived in Brooklyn, never thought he'd uproot. But thanks to COVID, and, and he was sort of, I would call him a middle-class comedian, like you was describing earlier. He needed to do shows, and he up and moved up to, of all places, Chattanooga.
Oh, I was gonna guess Florida or Austin, but all right, okay.
No,
he moved to where, Chris?
Chattanooga, your hometown.
I've never heard of this place.
Because he was able to do gigs and do gigs there and in Atlanta. I mean, I see his posts. and he's doing that sort of Southern circuit. Did it ever? I mean, because you are in one of the liberal bastions of the country.
Well, Chris, careful.
I'm not editorializing on that, just stating a fact.
Right.
And did you ever cross your mind that maybe you should just relocate permanently, like the other comedian I know, or?
Nah, because mostly because now, I mean, you don't have to live in LA or New York to have a career, or even be semi well known or famous, which is maybe an argument for why some of these other folks moved to Austin, or like a bunch of LA comics moved to Austin. And but even before all of this, I wasn't doing shows every night in this area. If I lived in New York or I lived in LA, or if my life was just a tiny bit different, maybe I would be doing spots every night.
Yeah.
But even before all this, like as a substitute teaching, I was, family's here. The woman I'm dating's here. I'm golfing all the time, even before all of it. So, and then just flying on Alaska is so cheap that it's just not even a big deal.
Right.
And I got a newish car, and it gets me anywhere and everywhere I want to go. So it's like, but if I also didn't, it was also like, give it 3 more weeks for a long time, I mean, it was like, another month. Oh, it'll be another month. So I didn't envision where we are today a year ago. And then my living situation is so unique and financially feasible that it would be hard to leave it anyway. I own a home, and then I have a studio apartment in the backyard, and then he pays just like $100 more than my mortgage, and then all the bills basically. So there's no way I can give this up for a while.
That's a good gig.
Because it's just pretty perfect, And then my place is kind of cute and nice, and I'm rarely here, and so it's. In fact, I've been looking, and man, he is getting a deal because rent has gone up so much.
Oh,
everywhere.
Seattle's nuts.
Seattle area, yeah.
Where are you at in?
I'm in Everett still.
Okay, so you're in Everett, but even Everett's gone nuts from everything I can tell.
Yep, and I'm not gonna raise it on him, but I mean, because he's been perfect, so that's like, so I think we got a nice little simpatico thing going on here, and I hope he stays, just forever, really, and then maybe someday this will become like the space where I keep my stuff, and then I go, I don't know, but LA isn't that intriguing to me. I wish San Diego was closer to LA, or at least with if there was no traffic, it would be close enough to LA, because you could drive to LA for a day and do shows, and do multiple shows in a night. I love New York. That's Manhattan right there behind me. I lived there for about 7 months when I was first married, and we loved the city. So I didn't do comedy at the time.
Oh, I didn't know you were in New York.
Yeah, we just before comedy, Aubrey, who you recall,
I know
probably, she and I moved to New York for an adventure and lived in the city. And I worked at Chelsea Piers Golf Club, which is this driving range you hit out onto the pier. And she worked at Starbucks, and we just did everything you could do in the city for 7 months, and then came home.
Good.
Just for the hell of it. But I the nostalgia, and I like New York comedy better than I like LA comedy in terms of like a little grittier, a little more joke focused, whereas not surprisingly LA is a little more acting and act out and character focused in the stand up. Makes total sense, just not my cup of tea as much as joke based, maybe a little more gritty, a little more irreverent New York.
So
you touched on it earlier, or Paul did, but talk, and
that's amazing.
And comedians like Seinfeld have said, they're never going to perform on a college campus again. And I know that he's not the only one who said that. Several well-known comedians. Do you, if you were appearing amongst a crowd, in front of a crowd on a college campus, would you censor yourself? Would you think there's these jokes I can tell and these jokes I can't? Or would you say, screw it, it's comedy, grow up?
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. Uh, I think the professional way to approach stand up is that every gig and room is different. And uh, I mean, I understand the concern about people being overly PC and their with respect to their
Yeah,
approach to stand-up comedy. I can understand that angle. A couple thoughts that I have there is I always am thinking about how to make a joke palatable to an audience
yeah,
and say it in a way that they can receive it, right? And so that's my first thought. That's constantly on our minds, and that has always been the truth, and that's not something that's new. And right, second thought is I do like to be irreverent, and the
yeah.
joke that I just told is irreverent, and I probably wouldn't do it on a college campus.
Right.
Um,
Well, and you
because
even
the tag of the joke actually is we can also do it in churches and schools.
Yeah.
So
I
I mean,
laugh at that.
it's funny. There's no surprise is funny. That's
yeah,
what's funny. That's what makes people laugh. A clever. I mean, that's a clever. I'm not trying to toot my horn, but that's a clever angle on
right.
this thing that they're trying to convince me about a mall, and I, you know, um, but I wouldn't do it there. I wouldn't do it for a corporate gig
Yep, yep,
because they have
Yep.
HR professionals watching. They have so people wanna be like it's these young kids and they're
right.
and yeah, okay, maybe, and whatever, and maybe there's a little bit too much safe space vibe to a college campus with regard to
Well,
stand up. But a corporate gig, that's not
yeah,
college kids, that's old people, and they're asking me to those are the
yeah.
cleanest shows I've ever had to do is corporate gigs, more so
Well,
than college.
and I would say
Anyway, but
I'm curious,
yeah,
just to sort of take a little
I'll
bit what you're saying.
yeah,
Uh, um, I mean, Andrew does the
yes,
dry bar comedy thing on the Facebook, YouTube's,
right.
whatever it is, right? Somewhere. And that is he's kind of gotten a little bit of a reputation for being funny, but maybe a little less crass. Is that fair in terms of
Well,
brand?
so we have a dry bar. I have a dry bar comedy special as
Yep.
well, and so dry bar is for folks who don't know. It's called dry bar because it's filmed in Provo, Utah,
Right.
and it's a dry bar. There's no alcohol, and in the club, and a company. It's a little bit of a backstory of the company, but I'll just give the short version. Is a company decided, hey, let's produce some comedy specials for some
Right.
middle.
Middle
Let's go with the
class.
middle class comedians, right? And people who aren't super famous, but they have the material. And initially, they were asking us to do 40 minutes of essentially clean-ish
Yeah, yeah.
material, right? And it helped me change some jokes to make them more palatable, right? There's
Sure.
an example of a joke that I had written was that I turned 40 in June and my parents had their 40th wedding anniversary 6 months earlier,
Right.
Yeah.
and I just figured that out this year. And I used to say, because I didn't come prematurely, my dad did. But
Wait for it to land, Chris. There it is.
No,
right.
no, no. I'm trying to remember how you said because I watched that special.
Okay.
And I'm trying
So
to
I
remember
got
how
I
you changed
so
that.
in my mind I was like, well, that joke's not gonna fly.
Right.
In front of a Mormon audience, I'm not gonna be able to say or refer to come.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that's just not gonna happen.
Right.
And then after talking to somebody who had already recorded, there was talk of like, okay, well, they're Mormons. That it's not that they don't sleep together; they sleep together quite a bit. They do it. They have
Hey,
kids,
lots of
so
kids.
they know about this is a thing. They just aren't going to relate maybe to one night stand jokes or getting super drunk jokes,
Right, right,
and
right.
they really didn't want us to refer to God in any way at all, not even the word. So like, even if you were like, I in a couple bits go, oh my God, just kind of as a pregnant pause.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I had to change that because I don't want them to go, oh, we don't really do that. Okay. So I changed the joke to, and this is how you would say, you don't say a baby comes prematurely. You say a
Right.
No.
baby is premature.
Right.
I just switched it because I wasn't premature. My dad was.
That's right.
And it's a better joke.
It is a
you
better
know,
joke.
because
yeah.
the point isn't to be crass in the joke. The
Right.
point is to have a double entendre and trick them,
Right.
you know? And so now I do the joke that way, unless I'm in like a weird, crazy bar where I know they're like, you know, I try to like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm trying to get there, wrangle them a little bit. The joke is more clever without the word "come" in it. Is basically.
Right. No,
So I
and
wrote
that's
a
fair.
joke better for that, made it more palatable to an audience, and so if we're kind of reminding a little bit, like I'm always considering that. I would do college gigs by all means. They don't care for me for the most part. The gig is better. Even my clean stuff, it's just kind of like me walking in with my bald head and some divorce jokes. And it's like, what do we? What's
Let's
going
talk
on
about middle
here?
age,
He's
kids.
40 years old, and
Right.
and it's just kind of
I
not.
met with my insurance adjuster.
I know, and if I think I dress young-ish, but they in their eyes are like he's trying too hard. It's just so I did a whole from like uh July to December of 2019. I did 6 college conferences. I got admitted to or 5, which was like an unheard of number. All my friends who were doing college, they were like, "Man, you're gonna book so many, and you're gonna rake in," because they pay like 15 to 2,500 a gig. You go to a conference, you perform in front of all the kids and their advisors, 10 minutes, and then someone does slam poetry for 10 minutes after you, and you know somebody talks about wanting to hang themselves and before you, and you're like, Jesus, this is, and someone plays music, and you know, and they're all kind of shucking and jiving, and like there's a decent amount of pandering happening, and even some of the comedians are pandering heavily, and I was like, I don't really even know how to do this, and I mean, I'm not above pandering to high or college kids, but I just didn't have the right material for that 10-minute thing. I'd much rather do 45 minutes at the college
Really?
than 10 minutes at these conferences. Well, because they're seeing it's a 2 or 3 day thing. They go to multiple shows like this, and so they're seeing some really good entertainment. And it's like people doing cover songs of their favorite hip hop and rap song,
Right.
the country version of it. And it's like, how am I competing with that? I mean, if I'm a college campus, I don't want this guy. I'm paying this guy $1,500 to come talk about getting a divorce.
You're not that funny, Cory.
Yeah,
Get out.
I didn't book any. I like booked hardly any, and and then I did the ones I went to fun because they're just coming to a comedy show. It's kids coming to a comedy show. I'm doing a little bit of crowd work to fill in the gaps where I've removed some jokes that I to fill my time, and it's a good it works out fine when I actually get to the college. But and also I'm not arena. It's not like Gaffigan coming in for Parents Weekend. We set up this thing on a Friday night for all the nerds who don't drink to come watch a comedy show. So there's like 40 kids. And it's like freshmen and sophomores, and you rag on them a little bit, you tell a few jokes and misdirect them, and it's a good night. But yeah, I mean, Seinfeld coming in for Parents Weekend, and he wants to talk about homosexuality in a way that is a straight white guy who's what is he, almost 60, 50 something now?
I think he's over 60.
Yeah, how he might his take on gay people. I mean, or what? I'm just throwing some, but like, I can understand why 18 to 22-year-old kids, first of all, might just be like, I just don't really relate. That's not how I see it. And then there's going to be some for sure who are going to go, right about it. And so there's no reason for him to go do that. So his take on it, that it's too politically correct, or that it's too, you get a grain of salt, right? I mean, what's he doing in a college? Why would you even do that? Just go. Right. He can go to Vegas and book and sell out every night if he wanted to, and have people who paid a decent chunk to see him because they love him, and do the exact same act, without any. And he's known as a pretty observational, clean-ish comedian.
Well,
So yeah, I don't know.
So about the clean cut, because I watched your dry bar comedy special.
Okay.
And I didn't feel, and then I watched some of your other stuff,
Right.
and I didn't feel like I lost anything when you did the clean version of your act. I mean, I
Right.
thought it was that was the first one I watched because it was the first one I came across, and then it was so to me it was a little jarring when I saw some of your other acts.
Sure.
I was like,
Yeah,
wait,
yeah.
it's like Gaffigan suddenly dropping F-bombs, like you said.
He does that
and
a handful of times in jokes too, but he has so many jokes. It's pretty wild. Anyway,
and he does do it a handful of times. You're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And but I mean, are you thought of as a clean comedian? Because I know there's clean comedians: Brian Reagan, Gaffigan, Seinfeld, John Pinette, God rest his
Sure.
soul.
Right.
All clean comedians.
Right.
And there's the ones that do the Christian circuit as well.
Sure.
But you don't like consider yourself a clean comedian and a clean comedian, but you can clean up your act. Is that how you think of it?
Yeah, well, I'd say I'd be, for the very few people in the comedy world who know who I am, I'd say they would say, oh, he's not dirty. But then but that's, I think, me being a combination of me having a dry bar special.
Yeah.
Where we know. And I think it's a combination of that and the palatability thing, and just you leave someone's show thinking, God, that is just raunch and F word. This is a very common phrase that people say after comedy shows. They just said the F word like every other word, which obviously is insane. Right. That's not ever the case. It's hyperbole, of course, but if I don't think people leave a show that I do very often going like, that's raunch or F, but I do a joke about, I'm not trying to get too, but I do sex jokes. I do so a few dark jokes. I do, a handful of two mean jokes where I'm like, I gotta. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, a couple of the jokes that don't work or upset people, quote unquote, upset people, are just mean. They're not. There's no dirtiness or cursing at all in the joke, but it's just a little too harsh. Or especially because a lot of my jokes involve young people because of the high school teaching, and then substitute teaching for younger ages. My closing joke is about a kiddo with special needs who was blind. And it took a while to get it to where it gets big laughter, and I just sort of make him the hero of the joke, and try to one of the best comedians in the world is Chad Daniels. He's irreverent, and he's gotten extremely famous in the last handful of years because of his albums, and he was #1 on Pandora in 2019. Which he lives in Fergus Falls, Minnesota. I think he moved to LA for like a couple years once. He's never been on TV, like a TV show. He's never been in a movie, just stand up only. And it wasn't Kevin Hart. It wasn't Jim Gaffigan. He was #1 on Pandora because he has multiple albums and he's very, very good. Well, the very first weekend, so one of his very first album, his album that really launched him on Pandora, is called Footprints on the Moon. It was a few years ago, and it has about a 9-10 minute chunk about a kiddo who essentially had autism in the bit. Well, I saw the very first weekend of him trying the joke. Bomb.
Right.
Every show all weekend long. Probably could have ditched it if he he wasn't a better comedian, and or if he didn't have more guts, or if he was me, basically. I would have ditched it, basically. And but he was using the word Asperger's or autism. I can't remember which one in the bit. The kid wasn't the butt of the joke by any means at the beginning, but he wasn't the hero for sure yet. And by the time it makes it to his album, it's a 9 to 10 minute chunk that is great. And it's things like he just doesn't use the word autism or Asperger's in the joke. He refers to him as being on the spectrum. And then he does jokes about understanding. Then he does jokes about, like, when we were kids, we had kids like that in our school. We just didn't know, we just knew they didn't like their fruit cocktail to touch their sandwiches. Like he would freak out, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then they'd separate it. And then he'd be like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then he would eat his fruit cocktail and his sandwich. And our teacher explained it to us, like his brain, what I'm butchering the joke, but so it gives you a sense of like, because then he goes, and we were envious of this kid. Oh, they said that Brother's brain that allows him to be comfortable with that just didn't kind of materialize, and it was replaced by being able to play every instrument at an expert level. And so as kids, you hear that and you go, why don't I get that? I can't play any instruments, and I'm over here eating soggy sandwiches. So you can see how, like, for an audience, it's not. I'm not making fun of this guy. I'm going, why? What's as a kid I didn't understand, and now the kid in the joke was being a jerk, and he was still able to, allow the kid to be kind of a pain in the butt in the joke, but do it in a way, and then. Like I said, 9 minutes. I mean, 9 minutes of talking about a kid on the spectrum, and I've never heard of even a whiff of anybody being upset by it or bothered by it. Maybe there has been, whatever. But he's so skilled, and he stuck with it, and he knew there was something funny about the story, and he wanted to do the story, and it took him a while. But every weekend he just, all right, remove that. How about this? Try this. Place this. Ooh, how about this joke can move into this bit, because that kind of helps explain my angle of like, because the overall premise is it's the parents' fault. Not that he is on the spectrum, but it's his parents' fault that the kid was acting this way. So he changed the angle, or really leaned into that angle. That whatever. My kid can't. It's just a great bit, but. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. He's as irreverent as it gets, and it's kind of one of his things, and I love him, and that's a lot of where I like get my influences from him. And I'm working with him next weekend in Spokane and Tacoma, which is very exciting. But I mean, I don't even remember the original question for this rant that I just went on, but yeah, it's just
I don't remember it either. But
but dry bar versus not dry bar.
Oh, right.
So. Yeah, I had to cut some bits out, and they were great. The dry bar folks were like, I mean, I had a nude photo joke kind of thing, and they were trying really hard to like go, okay, if you take the angle like this, and if you don't say these words, I think you can do it, and it'll be fine. And ultimately, like it wasn't like they're gonna not pay me. It's just like they maybe wouldn't be able to release the special if it,
or maybe not be able to promote it the way that.
or if I bombed in the room. So this is your audience. This audience happens to be all Mormon folks, or for the most part. And if you bomb, I mean, why would we're not going to release that on our channel? So let's help you not bomb. And corporate gig. Hey, can you just not do anything that talks? I mean, I've had some interest. Can you not talk about politics or race or religion or social issues? And I was like, well,
Or sex. Don't talk
what
about
are we?
like, oh, everything's off.
What am I? Am I just talking about rainbows and?
I mean, corporate travel. Am I right?
Flip flops. I know. And I've had that. I've had like, hey, will you talk about X, Y, and Z? And I'm much more willing to accommodate than a lot of folks are, and but I'm also trying to get it. I mean, I'm in a place where I'm trying to get the check, maybe more so than most people, and I just get it. I mean, maybe this comes from my teaching background or being involved in maybe a little young life in the Christian community, and just understanding that like. Some people, so I did shows in Pakistan, and I do a joke where I say I did shows in Pakistan, and they were terrifying. The booker was like, "You can talk about whatever you want," and I was like, "I do not think that's accurate." I got a few keep it to myselfsies, and turns out they are extremely nice, extremely hospitable. Karachi has 26 million people. We did 3 shows, 150 people each show, so all we needed was 450 people. That were down for some comedy and maybe a little bit of irreverence out of 26 million. And sure enough, they promoted in a way and booked that we could kind of talk about whatever we want. He said, just don't talk about religion. And his angle on that was like, look, they're not going to believe that your take on Islam as someone who's a white guy from Seattle is really going to understand the nuance of the whole religion. So just don't, why are you, there's billions of folks who are Muslim in the world. Why would you?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was it wasn't like, they're going to be, and then the other thing was I noticed was like relatability, right? Like, my sense was that these folks were sleeping together. Some of them, I mean, the people who were coupled up and married for sure, and but like one night stand is kind of something they're not doing.
Right.
And if they are, they're not laughing about it next to their sister at a comedy show. They're gonna go, "What? This is crazy.
I don't know what he's talking about."
And so there's not so I just didn't I couldn't do sort of that date, some of that dating stuff that's so
easy
common in America, and everybody's just didn't relate. But it wasn't like they were like they'd be like, I can't believe this guy. It just was like, I just don't even
moving on.
talking about, I don't know. So
well, let me do this
anyway,
because I do think the world of you.
Oh man, that's really nice of you. Thanks.
He's such a fuck up.
No, I mean probably, but I mean.
However, this is where we say.
However.
Okay.
I think this will probably be hard for you, but we'll see.
Sure. Yeah.
Can you brag on yourself a little bit? Would you? Because again, I've seen a lot of the stuff you've done over the years. I mean, even when pandemic first hit, and you're out, hawking and chucking silver water meals. Come on down and pick up your to-go menu, and we'll do it online. Like, I mean,
right.
I've watched you for a long time, even when you came out to Port Townsend, and so you've had some incredible experiences. I want you to brag on them a little bit. What's been the highlight of your career? Because there's a lot of funny people out there that aren't willing to pull that trigger and be like, I'll do it. I'm just going to do it. So brag.
All right. Well, the dry bar has been the best thing for my career, and in terms of just notoriety, and I was.
And it can be found on the YouTubes, by the way, folks. If
you're
listening,
a very popular YouTube channel and Facebook page. I think the most watched Facebook page of videos for comedy of any of them, I think. But they pump some money in, and they give us some money. It's nice. And so that one I was proud of, in that, like I said, 40 minutes of that clean was difficult, and it went well, and my videos did well and all that kind of stuff. And so that was really great. And that led to a bunch of stuff that's been really fun. Went to Pakistan, which was amazing. Dubai. I'm going to go back to Dubai at the end of June, beginning of July for another tour of gigs, which is really exciting. I like the thing that I'm most sort of proud of, I'd say, in comedy is sort of the willingness to hustle and do. I don't see things. I don't see myself as above things, or that. And there's some things that I think are kind of like, that's kind of gross, but I just realize how important it is to be involved in all this stuff. And so, like, beginning of the pandemic, I did a video a day in May of last year on TikTok. I just was like, all right, I'll do a video a day, and I got 40,000 followers in a month. And wow, I don't know if that's going to lead to ticket sales or anything, but and that was just my stand-up, and it was kind of cool and fun, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, TikTok, it's for kids dancing," and and I'm just like, look, I understand with 7+ billion people in the world and 330+ million people in America, like, there are niches for all these things, and lean into them a little bit, and just be willing to get your stuff out there in a way that people will that people who like you will see it, and don't I don't know, don't be so like, ugh.
Yeah.
I don't want to do a dry bar special because that's for Mormon. I have over 50 million views on my videos on dry bar, and I that's not all Mormon folks.
No, no,
Yeah.
no.
That
But,
is
I mean, two of them
or
are
even
Chris and I.
folks who what's that?
Two of us, it's Chris and I.
It's just their kids.
I
Mormon,
mean,
Mormon kids.
it's
Or
I-
people who like clean
Yeah,
comedy
yeah.
right.
only. It just so happens to be a thing they follow. Some people don't even know they're following a clean comedy thing. I don't think.
I don't think so
They
either.
come to show. People are like, aren't you worried when they come to your live show that they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, this is jarring and crazy and whatever. And I'm like, I'm not worried about it. First of all, and it just hasn't really.
You know,
It hasn't played out that way, and also I didn't get famous enough on it that like, so I know some people who've been on America's Got Talent,
yeah.
and then they get real famous, and then they do live shows, and then they get some blowback because people are like, I brought my 12-year-old to your show, and you're like, well,
Right,
that
like
was
this
your
one America's Got Talent.
that's. I mean, I'm obviously not doing America's Got Talent. You only have to make the finals. I think you only have to do like
Yeah.
7 minutes total comedy or something like that, which is hard to do.
Right.
7 minutes that is middle America,
Right,
clean,
American.
palatable, relatable, interesting, win over the judges, have a personality. It's very difficult. I don't think I could do it. I certainly don't think I could make the finals, but I think I could. I could maybe get past the first round, maybe,
Right. Pretty cool, right?
and that would
Made
be
it
hard.
past the first round, and all I got was this stupid shirt.
Right.
Uh,
So I've known people that have like done that, and then you go to the live show, and it's 50, it maybe 5 minutes of like similar to AJT material, and 45 minutes of just what they normally do, and people being like, ah.
I love that you call it
Yeah.
AGT. Well, here's the deal.
Yeah.
A couple things. One for Chris, and then one also for Chris. We like to end the show with a little thing we like to call.
The lightning round.
But before we go to the lightning round, I was going to suggest to Chris that we put him in touch with Courtney Hazlett so that she can put together Comedians on the Edge, a spin-off show from her show on Netflix, Restaurants on the Edge, who we had on our show.
No, yeah.
Don't you think Comedians on the Edge, we need you to be as downtrodden. We want people not showing up to your shows. I mean, we want your jokes to be horrendous. Like we need, because she's going to bring the people in and fix you.
Oh,
Right.
is it like bar rescue for restaurants with a lady or something? Oh, yeah. She could do that with comedy clubs for sure. I mean, I'm happy to do it with my career, but she can do it with comedy clubs because there are lots and lots of options for comedy, well, especially right now, but lots of options for comedy clubs being run poorly that need
Right, I'm sure.
Some
Cory would be one of the experts. Not remember they had those three experts.
Oh, yeah, no, he would come in and he'd be like, "You look horrible, man. You gotta shave."
Here's how and before we get to lightning round, I was going to say I'm surprised that I've never heard any because it would have because they cut those little small bits out of your broader dry bar bit. And one of the things that I listen to all the time, particularly my wife and I drive back and forth from Chicago to Alabama frequently, and that's a 13, 14-hour drive. We listen to Laugh USA on Sirius.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm surprised they haven't. And some of those guys are really well known, and a lot of them are middle class or comedians that we've been introduced to there. So why aren't they putting you on? Why aren't they putting some of those bits?
Well, I don't know where.
I mean, you certainly are funnier. You're funnier than a lot of the people on there.
I appreciate that. Here's the deal. I don't want to. Dry bar is an interesting thing in that we all did this for the most part, thinking we were doing a weekend of show or one night of shows, getting a paycheck and going to get a good video out of it. And then all of a sudden, they got crazy popular, and videos are getting millions of views, and they grew faster than they could keep up with. And I don't know if our contracts really considered that potential growth. So I'm not going to say they were unfair contracts by any means or anything like that. I just know that we're all kind of like, a lot of us are like, interesting.
Yeah.
Millions and millions of views. All right, we're getting money, but like, okay, I wonder what's the finances here. And they don't have enough staff to be able to like I mean, they give us a pretty clear breakdown. But it's not. We don't know the behind the scenes of like how that money works, and then there's ads and there's all this stuff. Okay, so some of us are on Amazon Prime, some of us aren't. we don't know why or how. I don't.
Right.
Some of us have ours on Pandora, and Spotify, and some of us aren't. Um, some of when I recorded my album, I recorded through a great recording company or production company, and they were like, we're gonna get it on as much as we can, and they worked for a very long time to get it on Sirius, and it finally got on Sirius, but it couldn't. There's different channels, right? And you're saying Laugh USA, and then there's clean comedy, and there's
Laugh USA is
other
a clean
stuff.
comedy channel.
Okay.
But they're not all clean comedians, because I've
Sure.
heard some of their stuff. I mean, they just they take bits that are clean.
Right. Well, that's what it is. We say it's a track-based world now. Your full album doesn't even matter anymore. Nobody's buying a hard copy, and not very many people are going to buy even a digital copy, because for the most part, people have Spotify, Pandora, or Apple Music. Apple Music, for $10 a month, you can have everything that's ever been recorded in terms of almost audio. You just type it in and it's free.
Right.
I mean, it's not free, it's $10 a month, but you don't buy any albums, and you can download the whole thing, and whatever. And some of that money somehow makes it to me. So once a month, for my album, I get a check, and it's fine, it's good, it's great. And mine's not very popular, so it makes me go like, oh my gosh, people with 5 albums that are popular, wow, it's a pretty good check every month, So the short answer is, I don't know how they make the decisions on where to put things or how to do it. I have a feeling that like for a while they just didn't even have their Instagram going. It just kind of was nothing. And then someone kind of figured it out, and then Instagram has Reels and IGTV, and they put them on, and then for a while they were upset with us for putting our own stuff on Instagram. And because they were like, hey, a contract says you can't, whatever. And I was like, well, and they're like, we just really want, if you're going to put it up, you got to make sure the Dry Bar logo is on it. And then that solved that issue. But we weren't trying to like cut it, just the way you cropped it. It just could, and but everybody else, like every other late Comedy Central and all the late nights, they want you to go ahead and put it on any, or they don't, I don't know, maybe I assume they're encouraging, but they're definitely not discouraging. Every comedian who's ever been on a late night, I see them crop it up and clip it up and put it on all their personal channels. And anyway, so it's a wild, I don't know how they make the decisions. I agree with you. They could really get some significant revenue if every single one of us was on those clean channels.
Oh, they need new material. I mean, I can't. It surprises me.
You're hearing a lot of repeat, I assume.
Yeah, it's way more than I should. And then there's a huge archive. But we can talk about this forever, and hopefully.
The lightning round waits for no man, Cory. That's what
man.
Right.
Okay, so the lightning round. There's 5 words. I'm gonna say one at a time, and you have added pressure as a comedian.
That is true.
Because we want you to say the first thing that comes to mind. Now, over time, it's evolved.
Yes, it has.
Where there's something we have in mind.
There's a right answer.
That is the right answer.
Fair enough.
But so we'll critique your answers after.
So this is like a Rorschach, or what do they call that thing? But
Rorschach,
we want to, and so
okay.
So but to make it slightly easier, there is a theme to these, and this is the Seattle version. So you should.
Oh, good. I'm excited, Chris. Good.
You got the Seattle version. So
just real quick, shouldn't it say recording up in the? Just kidding, it does. I gotcha. All right, here we go.
Is this mic working?
I just wanted to make Dan nervous, or Dave nervous.
Producer Dave, yeah. All right, so the first one, Thriller.
Michael Jackson. Da, 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 da.
I mean, that is right, but it's probably not what you were looking for.
It's close, but we'll get. I mean, you want to do them one at a time?
No. Well, I don't. There's a theme. There's a way you do this.
All right. Okay.
Number 2, Sonics.
Gary Payton is my favorite player of all time. All
right. Number 3, Pilots.
Ooh.
I mean, the original Mariners were the Seattle Pilots.
There it is.
All right.
See, there's a theme of failed professional sports teams, Paul, that I know you appreciate.
I
Cascade.
High school / mountains.
All right, and the final one, Idaho.
You to pimp. No, Boise.
There you go. There you go.
Pimp. Okay, excellent. Well, okay, so what we were looking for Thriller
Yeah.
was more of a reference back to your very famous video of 2008 that is still on the internet, folks. Put in Cory's name and Michael Jackson, and you'll see some of his excellent moves, bust some moves to Michael Jackson songs at a of all things teacher talent show, which
quote unquote talent. Yeah.
he also talks about it in the Dry Bar special. So I advise you watch the Dry Bar special, hear him describe it, then watch.
Go watch the video.
In
So
order.
a couple quick things. I mean, I know this is lightning, but a quick funny things. Before I knew anything about social media, I had a YouTube channel. And I put that video on it, and it did quite well. I overstate the amount of views and likes and dislikes for the bit and the joke, but it did have a lot of commentary that was negative because people just like, he dies, and people land on the page, and they are like, ooh, let's see, and then it's me, and they're like, this guy stinks. And it's good for a teacher at a teacher talent show, but it's bad for an actual impersonator. Right?
Yeah.
And but at weddings over the years, I mean, I remember the Horner's wedding, I was dancing, and the Roach's wedding, I was probably dancing, cutting a rug, and anyway. So I start doing comedy. I'm like, well, I need a comedy YouTube channel. So I instead of just continuing the same YouTube channel, and keeping all those views, I started a new. I left it up. But I started a new. This is my comedy one.
Yeah.
And what a dumb move! And then I reposted on there, and it got no views, and whatever. As far as the joke goes, as soon as that documentary came out, it just kind of killed the joke. I mean, people know about his past and the stories.
No, I loved that joke.
I appreciate that, but as soon as the documentary came out, audiences struggled. Because it was. I haven't watched the documentary, but I hear it's a real rough watch. So I think people who have watched the documentary kind of go like, ooh, this is a little much. Before the documentary, when it was just sort of all in our, like it was still kind of a joke, how much are, what is it? Half off pants? Isn't there a half off pants Kmart joke with Michael Jackson? I don't know the joke, but there's some right? Like he loved kids or whatever. But then the documentary made people kind of go, ugh. The joke just stopped working as well. And it was time to be done with the joke anyway, so that's fine. But so that's the story of the hit. There's an example of a joke that became less palatable because of time had gone on, and because it's
all right.
Okay,
all
so
right. Yeah. Okay.
Sonic's Pilots, you got what we were looking for there. I was referring to again failed Seattle franchises.
And Gary Pete is the right answer.
I agree.
GP, are you with me?
Cascade,
are you with me?
Cascade, we were looking for the laundry detergent. So
that's not true. So do you know that he went to Cascade High School?
I did not. But
home of the Bruins, and actually that's where you do the majority of your teaching. Is that right?
Yeah, I taught history there for 12 years.
I thought that's where you were going, Chris. I thought you had done like the full on stalking.
Oh, funny. Yeah. I was like, how did he know this? I assumed you told him, but yeah.
Maybe I did.
Were you going for detergent?
I was going for detergent because I mean, of course I know there's the Cascades in Washington, and I thought the fact that I didn't make it plural, I made it singular, might lead you into the laundry detergent.
Yeah, no, I thought
we call it the Cascade Mountains oftentimes. So I guess that's where.
Okay.
Cascade.
I would have also accepted the Bruins. I would have also accepted that as an answer.
High school, the Bruins. It's right. I can't quite see it from where I'm at right now, but it's right down the road. And I taught there for 12 years, or went to high school there, taught there for 12 years, led Young Life there, student taught there. Yep. So a lot of people are like, I haven't even been back to my high school since I graduated. I'm like, I've been back like 1,000 times,
right?
Like 2,000 times probably. And then, I quit my own decision. to do stand-up comedy full time because I want to try out both of the lowest paying jobs in America.
Right.
And podcaster, I've added that. There you go. You lose money podcasting. But,
Raking it in.
And Idaho, we were looking.
Idaho, yeah.
Since it's a neighbor state, whether there was any, and so so your first answer was
Udaman.
Silly.
Yeah, that was the right answer.
Pimp, right Idaho. It's just a silly old joke.
Right, and Chris, if you want to find the state rival, and I would
Oregon.
It's Oregon. We hate that.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know that, Chris, because you're not from the Northwest.
But I just performed in Idaho last week. It's spelled Moscow, but it's pronounced Moscow. Don't get it wrong, or they'll get very angry with you. It's right near Pullman, which is where Wazoo is, Washington State University, which is the butt of a lot of jokes in the state. And so I made fun of that a little bit. And Moscow is where University of Idaho is near there. The Vandals are in there, yeah. And Boise, I dated after I got a divorce, I dated a young gal in Boise for a while. So, and I've spent a lot of time in Boise performing and hanging out with that gal.
Boise. Her whole family's from Boise. Did you know
that? Oh, nice. See, Chattanooga and Boise. I need to hit you. And Chicago. What's the Chicago connection?
Well, Chris is from Chicago.
I live in Chicago mainly. Gosh. Unfortunately, I'm not there this weekend because I'm down here. So
yeah, sure. But if you know anybody that wants to go to a show tomorrow night, I could really use them.
Well, so what we'll do is we'll hit it up on the social networks and
there you go.
See what we can do to push people your way. Yeah. But beyond that, how can people know when you're going to be in their town? How can they follow you? How can they keep up with you?
Yeah, I think you just follow me at Cory Michaelis Comedy on all of the things, Cory. Michael IS Comedy, and that's Twitter, Instagram, farmersonly.com, all the things, and TikTok, OnlyFans. You guys got OnlyFans? Probably not. You're married or whatever.
No, I know what it is though. I know what it is.
I have a silly photo on there just so I can have an account, and you got to get an account to be able to view the. Anyway, all right. So yeah, but I annoyingly probably post on all of those things or share on all of those things. So it's more about whatever their favorite
channel,
social media outlet is, and then you could go to my website for tour dates, but for the most part, it's just people finding out.
Well, and the message that I thought you said so eloquently at the beginning was, man, go out, go back out, support entertainers, support comedians. If you are in one of those places where you're just not ready to do it, that's okay. Figure out ways you can flip money to Cory anyway, right?
Yeah, I'm into that.
Hey, I did my share, Paul. My wife and I saw live music for the first time in 18 months last weekend when we saw Jeremy Camp, your good friend Jeremy Camp. So.
Well, Cory, thanks for being on the show. Great to reconnect. And we'll see what we can do to get people your ways, man.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you having me. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
I'll tell you what, Chris. While I absolutely love Cory Michaelis and all the things he said, I'm a little bit intimidated. I think I'm kind of funny most of the time, but when you run across someone like Cory, you're like, not very funny.
Yeah, he is awesome. And again, if you haven't seen him on Dry Bar, his show on Dry Bar, you absolutely have to watch it. It's really funny. Sure. You can watch it with the family because, as we talked about, the Dry Bar requires a clean set. And
sure.
Again, I laughed all the way through it. I'm a big fan of comedians, and now I'm a big fan of Cory's. So thank you for introducing him to me and to the world, Paul.
Absolutely.
David, last week, and always good to see our producer, David, you were in the midst of a major overhaul of your home office. Is this it? And would you like to take us on a tour of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking, Chris. And once again, I'm sorry about last week. Everything was just kind of messy. I had wires hanging everywhere. I'm sure our listeners and our viewers will remember. But behind me, sorry if it's also still kind of messy, but this is kind of the finished product that I'm aiming for. As you can see, I've got a dual monitor set up above either shoulder. And I have those on standby right now. Typically, I've got The Simpsons playing in the one over this shoulder, and then I've got pictures of dogs in the other And then of course, underneath, we've got all these bright colors. Those are my hotkeys. It's what the kids do these days instead of keyboards. You got your keyboard, but you don't want to use your keyboard. It's an accessory, a fashion accessory. So hotkeys, for example, rather than pressing the T key on my keyboard, I'd have a separate hotkey that's mapped to T, and that way I don't even have to touch the keyboard. It's a beautiful.
Yeah.
But
Smart.
you have to remember which hotkey is T.
Yeah, so I label them, and that way.
So you have a T hotkey to replace your T.
And the T hotkey is labeled. What is the label on the T hotkey, David?
It says T.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. Honestly, and I'm gonna be a little bit selfish here. I'm gonna say it's lucky Cory Michaelis isn't still here, because the stuff we produce way funnier than the professional comedian.
Right. Well, I mean, we've got 3 times the firepower right here.
Right. Thrice. But I do think the idea, and I really do, and it was part of our thinking of why we talked to Cory in the first place. I really do believe that sort of coming out of COVID, a big part of that is going to be, and has to be, just laughing, right? How much have we just sucked for the last year? You know what? Laugh a bit. And I thought Cory, when he was talking, he was like, you know what we need to do? The best way to recover from this thing, just go out, man, and enjoy it and laugh and just
live events.
Yes. So
go
ahead, Chris.
Something occurred to me as I was listening to Cory, and I'm not sure it's ever been articulated prior to now, but I want to try it out on you guys. But to me, based on this, I got the idea that sort of this laughter is the best medicine.
Oh my goodness, Chris!
What do you think of that?
You should trademark that.
Yeah. I mean, it just out of the blue when I was listening to Cory, and I was thinking, that's what we need. We all need medicine, and laughter is the medicine.
Right.
And that was sort of the first thought. That was the first version of it. But I said it needs to be shorter. I said we all need medicine. Laughter is medicine. And I said it's got to be shorter and pithier. So laughter is the best medicine.
You could even go down to shorten that still to laughter medicine, Chris.
You might need a little explanation. I'm not sure. We'll try that on the kids and see what they say.
Yeah, I mean, the kids know. The kids know these days. Well, as always, we're grateful to our listeners, our watchers, all of the peoples, and I hope that as we're sort of exploring how to recover, because I don't think that this is going to be as simple as we were hoping. Like, oh, just turn it back on, right? Just turn society back on, and all be magically fixed. You know what I mean? Like, there's gonna be some reacquaintance, like coming back and meeting family for it's been 2 years. Like, we step on each other's toes, and oh wait, I'm not supposed to say that thing. You know what I mean? And so, but there's a healing, and there's a recovery, and there's all of that. And let's be patient with each other, because honestly, we've all been through, I think, probably the worst year of our lives. And so, while there have been some highlights and some really fantastic and amazing positives in general, there's going to be some recovery time. And so we're excited to kind of explore that, talk about that, share with us the people you'd like us to be talking to.
Yep.
We'd like to share those on the show here. But yeah, like and subscribe this video, share it with your friends. Let us know where we should be going.
Yep. Let's go where we should be going. And I'm going to put go out on a limb and say we'll see you next week, which will require us to get a 3rd episode in the can. So if you have any thoughts on who you'd like to see, we're still waiting to hear back from Vince Vaughn. If you know Vince, reach out to him and see if you can we can nudge him in a little more. But other than that, we'll see who we have next week. But
sounds good.
You'll get me, you'll get Paul, and you'll get fan favorite producer Dave. So again, thanks for listening, and have a great week.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.